I don't believe that balance exists. I believe it's wholeness.
I'm whole to begin with, but I have work to do.
Wholeness to me is being able to be your own bridge to your heart, through your heart.
Eileen is a firm believer that wellness and fitness starts from the ground up. She obtained certifications in both hand and foot reflexology and loves helping people relax with her skills. She has been leading group fitness and yoga classes for nearly 3 decades. During COVID, she started a streaming yoga class that you can join from anywhere around the world.
Reflexology is a great modality. It goes way back to ancient times. There's some belief that it was created by Egyptians. Some believe it was created by Chinese. To me, that's irrelevant. It's just that it's this modality of, you have acupressure points or points throughout your body that correspond to organs and glands and joints. So by the stimulation of those points, you're then able to bring your body into that state of homeostasis or energetic balance and healing and relaxation. And people often associate reflexology with feet, which is probably the most popular. I'm also certified in hands.
I didn't know that.
Hands as well as face and ear. I've trained in that. I can use it as sort of like an addition to, but I primarily do feet. I've done hands a lot, but I've kind of morphed into primarily doing feet. And it's great because the way reflexology works, if you're looking at, let's say, your feet, it maps the body. So if you wanted to work a point that's your brain, you're going to go to the top of your toes. And then your lungs would be around the ball of the foot or in the front of your foot. Your digestion and your organs are mostly found in midfoot because they're found in mid-torso. And then you've got like sciatic and gluteal in your heels. And here's a cute little tip. So if you sat on the floor without shoes and socks on and looked in the mirror and you looked at your heels, they kind of look like your glutes.
Oh, I love it. I love how it's symmetrical and like synchronous to your body.
Right.
I love that's just like, isn't that just how nature works out? It's like it makes a lot more sense than we think. Yeah,
absolutely. And your body can heal. And this is a great way to aid in that healing. For me, the human body is fascinating. And I believe that what we really know about it is just a minor of what the potential of each human body can do. To me, it's fascinating that we can get an illness or heal, or we can do something like reflexology and help maybe prevent something, or that you can relax just by working certain points in your feet. And it's wonderful. I love to hear after I do some sessions, the feedback from the next day. And I've had a lot of people recently say, oh, I have issues with sleeping, and oh my goodness, the next day I slept 10 hours, or I fell asleep a couple of hours after the session and I slept through the night. And that for a reflexologist, that's golden.
That's amazing. I wanted to touch on and just reflect your what you said about, I don't know if we know everything, and it's hard to believe really, because I think we know so much, but I remember watching a documentary not too long ago, and I even spoke at a live event about germ theory and how that's new, how germ theory didn't exist until germ as we know it didn't exist into the dictionary until the early 1900s, like we didn't know. But I remember this other one about not understanding the digestive system, and how there was, I believe, if I'm remembering right, because I'm just remembering, it was like, I think it was during the Civil War. So we're late 1800s again. And somebody had been shot so badly that they couldn't repair it, but he was still alive. And so they just studied him, and it was almost like, it's hard to believe, but it was like they didn't understand what they were eating. They didn't even have a connection between what they were eating and how it came out the other side. And so it's hard to believe, and I think we're always growing as a species. So I just, sometimes I play with that and wonder, like, what's that going to be like in 100 years when we think, oh, we didn't even know what that was like.
Right.
We didn't even understand. So
if you think of that in terms of almost like technology, what technology is going to be in 100 years is nothing what we know now. And I think it's the same with some of our holistic modalities and what we're learning about the human body.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I loved that you went and talked a little bit about the history of it. Why is it called, or is there a difference between reflexology and zoning? And what does zoning, do you know anything about? Are they the same?
I'm not familiar with zoning per se, but in reflexology, we call them zones.
Yeah.
And they correspond with your, on your feet, or even with your hands. They'll correspond with, from your big toe down to your heel. That would be zone 1. And then there's different zones in terms of your neck zone would be underneath your toes. Because if you think of your toes to represent your head, so right under that is your neck, and then underneath the ball of your foot would be your diaphragm, and then you've got your waistline, which comes about midfoot on the plantar aspect, and then your pelvic is at about the top of your heel. So there are zones in that correspond with different parts of the body. And there is a difference with reflexology and a foot massage. The problem that sometimes arises is that it's not a regulated industry. So somebody who has not gone through reflexology school like I have, and who didn't do the hundreds and hundreds of hours of practicum like myself and the other reflexology students have, can call themselves a reflexologist because it's not regulated. Sort of like a nutritionist. I could hang out a shingle now and say I have a business and I'm a nutritionist. I've never taken a course. I don't, I eat fairly well, but but there's nothing to say, there's no law that says I can't do that. I can't call myself a registered dietitian because I'm not. So if you decide you want to do reflexology, I highly recommend you seek somebody out who you know is a certified reflexologist. Otherwise, you might be getting a lovely, lovely foot massage. But that's different than if you have a certified reflexologist. Very often, if you go to a nail salon and they say that it's reflexology, it's very often a lovely foot massage.
Oh, wow.
But if you went into the nail salon and said, hey, I'm having a little problem with my left shoulder, can you show me where that point is? If they're not able to tell you, they're not certified.
Is there certain pressures that you use in certain to get different results, or what would be the difference? Like what kind of things do you learn? Where is the most important thing, or is there other things?
Well, your spine, I was taught that your spine is your most important reflex because everything comes off the spine. You've got 33 nerves that innervate off your spine. So when I was trained, we start with relaxation to get your foot all nice and relaxed. And then your first venture into working on the points is we do the spine several times. And although you have one spine, you work both the spine reflex on both feet, which is the medial edge coming from about the base of your big toe down to just around your ankle bone. And that represents your spine. And if you look, sort of like the gluteals, if you look, there's a curve in your foot that represents the curve in your spine.
Right. That makes sense.
So we start there. I've seen different schools of thought as to what you start with, where you go, which point you should work on first. I don't know that it really matters in terms of I don't think if you do the spine second or third point that you're going to be imbalanced. I think a lot of that comes down to belief and training. You might work the spine first, you might do it later on, you may come back to it. I think that's really a matter of training, and but there are different ways you can work. And again, that's also a matter of how you were trained. Some people do thumb walking, which is you'll support the foot or the hand, and then you'll kind of inchworm up to the point. Some may do more lines. There are certain points you're going to press in and kind of hook into to really stimulate that point, because it might be deeper. Or there might be somewhere you rotate because you want that energetic rotation. And there's some you might hold. And some of it is intuition as well. I might be working on a spot and I can feel a little something, and I might say, okay, let me just go back. Or my intuition might say, I need to work on that spot again, or let me do this spot and forego another spot.
That makes sense.
And again, going back to how it maps the body. So if you're working your gallbladder, let's say somebody had gallbladder surgery, you want to work on the gallbladder, you're going to go to the right side, and the liver's on the right, the gallbladder and the liver's on the right. So you would work the right foot for that aspect. And again, it maps the body. And since it's over on your right side toward the side, you'd be going it. We map it in terms of on your right side between either fingers 4 and 5 or toes 4 and 5, and then you go down to your mid, and it's right there, and then you hook in. So there are different methods. There's different techniques. Some people like a really firm technique. Some people work with a really soft technique. You need to find a reflexologist who either can adapt to what you want, or one who has a technique that you enjoy. I had somebody say to me once that her sister went for quote unquote reflexology and couldn't walk for several days because the muscles in her feet were so painful. Well, it winds up that it was not a certified reflexologist.
Oh, I have heard that. I have heard different people say, "Oh, it was so painful," and then other people just love it. I didn't know that they were both effective. I thought maybe
if it's painful, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
Reflexology should not be painful. There might be a point where you go, ooh. Right. I remember one time when I was in reflexology school, and we practiced on each other, and the instructor would practice, and he hit my pituitary point. Whew, I almost jumped off that table.
Right.
But that's different than I can't walk 3 days later because the muscles in my feet are so bruised.
Right.
And you might feel a little, or feel a spot, or I've had people go, ooh, like, what's that?
Right.
But to be in pain, no.
Right.
No, reflexology is not, real reflexology is not painful.
Okay.
It's actually, you should come off this table or in the chair, or however you're doing it. You come off from your session feeling relaxed. And the way I describe it is you float out of the room. Now, some people have a reaction where you feel a little lightheaded, or you might feel a little, term I've heard used as like punch drunk. And that's because you're getting, your energy might be balancing.
Right. Drink water, rest after.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might not occur till 24 hours after.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it just depends on how your body's trying to regulate itself, how it's trying to get into that state of homeostasis.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So what brought you to practicing and going to school?
I have been in the fitness industry for a long, long time. And I took a course, a program. I got certified in a program that was at that time called Willpower and Grace. And it was a barefoot cardio class. And I had always, in the back of my mind, thought, reflexology is kind of interesting. And I took this course, and it was very foot emphasis because you're barefoot. And I loved it. And I learned more about feet and the importance of keeping your foot muscles strong, and the role that feet play in your balance, in your posture, in how you walk. I do a lot of work with, as I like to say, people of a certain age, or the way I refer to them as the chronologically enriched.
I love it.
We don't say old.
That's right.
And we don't say senior citizens. We are chronologically enriched. And
I love it.
And for them, it's really important. It's important for everybody. Mm-hmm. But for them, it's really important because if your feet are weak, then everything that sits above it is going to be weak, and it's going to switch how you walk. If you change how you walk or you're unable to walk, you lose your ability to live a vibrant life.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many connections. I know with the feet, I know essential oils, mm-hmm. Regardless, if you don't know where to put it, bottom of your feet is where it's most often recommended. Right. I also know that when I was learning a little bit about, we have on our, in the library, we have some things about pets, and pets have big yes. chakras on their paws. And that's how sometimes your dog will know a storm was coming or something like that. They're really right. connected. So it makes sense that yeah. we would find information on our human feet.
And then the more I learned about the importance of foot function and foot strength, and then I decided, well, I want to pursue this a little bit more. And every year, instead of making a New Year's resolution, I create a theme that I look at it as a thread in a tapestry for the year that I can weave in. And I decided that year my focus was going to be change brings change.
Wow, I love it.
And so I decided, then I pursued going to reflexology school. I'm in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So about every other weekend I'd hop on the train and I'd go down to New York City, and I took the classes in feet, hands, face, ear, and I did my practicum, and I got certified in, I believe it was 2018 and 2019.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what do you love most about it and working with your clients?
What I love is I get as much out of it. Okay, maybe not as much, but I get a lot out of it as well. And I just love the opportunity to have them relax and to bring more awareness into their body. When I do my sessions, and I do them primarily at, although they still use the word senior centers, and I'm in a room, we've got the essential oils going on the diffuser. I put essential oils in the cream that I use. At the end of their session, to wake their feet up, I'll spray them with some peppermint oil and water. And it's funny, when I do that, when I go for the bottle, they know it, and inevitably they're like, oh, it's over.
Oh, that sounds delightful. That sounds delightful.
To be in that room, in that situation where they're relaxing and enjoying, and I can give them that gift of energetic balance, it's divine for me.
Can you feel, do you feel information from the body as you're working with it?
Sometimes, sometimes feet will talk to me. Now, sometimes I'll feel something, and it might be that there's a muscle there that's a little tight. It could be that there's an energetic block there. It could be that there's something going on in a particular organ or gland or joint. I had a woman at one of the centers, and I'm working on her feet, and I said to her, after the session, I'll ask them if I receive any information. And I said, is something going on with your urinary tract? Nope. She said, no, I'm good. I'm all good. I said, okay. I felt something, but again, it could be muscle, could be energy. I can't tell.
Right.
And then I saw her in one of I also do yoga and chair yoga and movement classes. I saw her in one of my classes at the center a couple of weeks later, and she said, yeah, I haven't been here because guess why? A week after I saw you, I had a raging urinary tract infection.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had somebody, when I was working on my practicum, and she's I want to say a girl, but she was an adult around my kid's age, so that's why. She, for whatever medical reason between her and her doctors, had her adrenals removed. And I'm working on the points, and as I'm working on it, she was like, oh, wow. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, my pressure might be a little, I can back off. She said, no, it hurts so good. Like, I feel it hurts so good. And I was okay. And I kept working. And she, after the session, she said, what was that point? And I chuckled and I said, that was your adrenal point you felt. And she said, but I don't have my adrenals. I said, but your body doesn't know that. And it wasn't long after her surgery. I said, your body still has the energy from your adrenals being there, and it's trying to balance that out. That's why you felt it.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. Wow. Yeah. So, in what other ways have you seen this, transform people or benefit or change people?
Well, one of the things, reflexology is luscious when you have somebody who's qualified, certified, doing that on you, and you just get to surrender. As I say to people when they get on my table, you have one job, and that's to relax. Now, some people like to chat. Some people will chat like while I'm doing one foot and they'll quiet by the other. Or some people totally zone out. There's, again, different schools of thought on that. I know some people who only want quiet. My personal feeling is it's your session. However you want to do it is up to you. I've seen people really relax, and you can do this on yourself as well. So if you're anxious, you could do a point to help bring yourself into relaxation. Your solar plexus point on either your hand or your foot. Now, your solar plexus is your energetic chakra system around your navel area, and that is an energy of, sometimes if you're anxious, your chakra, your solar plexus might be a little off balance, or if there's that fight or flight, and you can take that solar plexus point. Let's say you're in the grocery store and you're getting a little anxious because you're looking at the price of food or something. And then as you're getting ready to check out, or in your checkout line, there's a couple people ahead of you and you're feeling anxious, you can take your hand, go to your middle finger. So if your thumb is your first, so it's your third finger, slide down to underneath where the bones are. It's right under your bones. So, and on your foot, it would be the ball of your foot. You can do a finger. I like to do my thumb, press in there. You'll feel like there's a little indent right there. You might have to shift around a little bit, but you'll find it. And you press in there, and you might press and hold, or you might do little clockwise circles and take some deep breaths. And you can do that on each hand, and that's your solar plexus point, and that will help you to get a little bit more chill. So you could do that anywhere, and nobody even knows you have to be doing it to yourself. So you can really perform reflexology on yourself. Some people do it on their own before they go to bed. They'll work on some points, and even just that foot massage, that self foot massage. Or if you get your partner to just do that, he doesn't even have to be, or she doesn't have to be a certified reflexologist, but even just that contact, that
exchange of energy
on your foot, and it's the extreme of energy, and you could do it on feet, but you could also have your partner do it on your hands, because hands are actually more intimate than your feet. And your feet might help you relax more, but you'll get that connection more if you just surrender and you let whoever just put that cream and go onto your hands and stroke hands. And you don't even have to have, it's reflexology-ish. And you can always call up a chart on whatever server you use and look up the chart if there's a specific point you want to work on, and you can get the idea. And for those who are perfectionists, you might get a little anxious. Am I on the right point? If you're in the general area, it's all good because it's energy based.
Right. That's really good. Now, I remember a famous doctor, people would call him and he would work them through, it was years ago, and he would work them through their headaches using their hand. Yeah. What, do you know what that is? Can you share with us
what I've been trained is, I don't know if it's the point that he was, but what I was trained for hand, if you take your hand and then on your opposite hand, you've got your pointer finger. So go to the webbing between your thumb and number 2, slide to where you get that dead end, where the bone is, and then you press the finger in there, and then you're going to go onto the plantar aspect on the bottom and press in, so sort of like as if there's a laser beam.
Yeah, that's what that's what he did.
And and that's a great, because in hand reflexology, that's also your adrenal point. So it helps to calm down your adrenals, which will help you relax, because if adrenaline is pumping through your body, that might lead to your headache. So this is getting your helping to get your adrenal point in balance. And you close your eyes if you care to, or just breathe through it and give that a press. And you'll find too that if you're in that headache state or heading to that headache state, you want to get there like as soon as you can to get it. Because once you're way into that migraine or that headache, this might not be as effective. Okay. But if you get into that point of, I think I'm getting that headache, go to that point. And you can do it. You've got 2 adrenals. They sit above your kidneys. So do it on each hand.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I like that.
Yeah. So and there's just so much, there's so many points then you can use for, if you have issues with your shoulders, the point is underneath your pinky, whether it be your finger or your toe, just underneath the base of your toe, right at the head of the bone. And that's your shoulder point. So if you did a lot of weekend warrior stuff, or you're doing yard work, and you can work into that hand. And if your right shoulder is bothering you, you would do your right hand, left shoulder, left hand, or foot.
Wow. I'm just noticing how much I will intuitively kind of do that. Some, like, I'll grab onto, so I'm like going, I got to pay attention when that shows up.
Right. and let's say you go to a restaurant and you've had this big heavy meal. So you might then want to go to the middle of the palm of your hand, and you're not going to kick off your shoes at a restaurant. You can do that when you get home. And then you can work into the middle of the palm of your hand, because that's where your digestion is. That's the organs for digestion. It's your intestines. And you would want to work going up and down in stripes, but you'd also want to work side to side, because your intestines go side to side. And another thing that you can do is, if you're home and again you're feeling sluggish, and it's also really great for foot muscles, is to take a tennis ball or lacrosse ball, put it under your midfoot and roll, because that's also getting stimulation into those points as well. A little different.
Yeah. So how would you describe, from your schooling and things like that the idea of pressure points, and why and how and why they're connected? Explain that a little bit to somebody that doesn't know.
It's an acupressure point. There's also some feeling, especially in Chinese medicine, that it's connected to meridians. I wasn't trained in meridians. I was trained to connect to organs, glands, and joints. Okay. And because you've got those corresponding points in your hands and feet, and it's an energetic connection. That's how the stimulation, it's the stimulation of those points that brings an energy of balance to correspond to wherever it is on that part of your body.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're not completely familiar with, is that energy system of the body. It's still not yet. If you go to the wholenessnetwork.com, scroll to the bottom, that's one of our free that's our little free thing that we offer everybody, is a free class on the energy system, the body's energy system, because it's just something that's foreign, especially in Western society.
In Western, absolutely. Reflexology is much more accepted over in Europe than it is over here. And over in Europe, it's considered more of an aspect of not necessarily medicine, but here it's thought of as, I'm going to get reflexology because I want a lovely foot massage. And over in Europe, it's more of, I'm going to get reflexology because I want to get healthier, or I want work on a specific point so I can heal better in that area.
Right. It's maybe even prescribed versus just something that's fun. Yeah,
right.
that makes sense.
Right.
That
But yeah,
sense.
Europe has a very different philosophy toward reflexology than we do here. I have to say, in this country, it is growing, but slowly.
Soon we'll get there. And that's why we do these kinds of podcasts. This is what I really wanted to do, because I think there's a huge umbrella of, whether people call it energy healing or energy work or energetic medicine or whatever people want to call it. I want people to understand what's included in this gigantic umbrella of healing modalities and how they can support us. Not like I say here, yeah, it's nice and it kind of, that the energy gives you some energy, but there is some healing properties to these things. And if we can, and I think that we intuitively know what works for us. I think, if this is speaking to you and it just says that, I just believe that you just get that little tap on your, on your insides that say, this is what I need to do. And I need to seek out this kind of help and this kind of support. And one thing that's great about these things is they are great alongside things like other illnesses, whether they're cancer, sometimes just to have that, it supports it so much, or autoimmune diseases or things like that. These kinds of modalities just complement any other
absolutely
kind of health thing that you're receiving.
One of my regular clients is she has pancreatic cancer, and I can't cure her pancreatic cancer,
right?
But what reflexology does for her is the relaxation part of it. She's understandably very anxious about her disease and its progression and what road it's going to take her down on. So for her, getting on that table and surrendering and letting me work on her feet, that's her time to really just let go and relax and know that even just for that half an hour, 45 minutes, hour, or whatever it might be, that she's okay.
Yes, that's so good. That's so good. And we're so careful here too in the West to we think that is self-care, but I think it's like necessary care, because that is so helpful to have, whether, that it may not be cancer. Maybe it's, I'm in a busy section of my life. I'm building a home or I'm starting a business or whatever. And if you just give yourself that time to say, for this few minutes, I'm just going to be here and receive and relax. That's healing. That's healing all by itself. And the word heal is different, like you say, than cure.
Right.
And that's why we're the Wholeness Network. The healing is actually becoming whole, which is a totally different thing. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because your body has to work together wholly.
Yes.
And I'm so often reminded of that little kid's song, your ankle bone's connected to your leg bone.
I love it. Yeah.
And it's true. Your body is connected, which is why personally it drives me crazy when my view of medicine these days is everyone has a specialty and we only deal with that specialty or that organ. Well, tell me how my entire body is functioning. Because if I have a hip issue, it's going to change how I stand. It's going to change how I walk. It's going to change my pelvis. My pelvis is going to change my balance.
Right. Yeah. We are so connected. You are right. I think that's when I did that talk, that was one of the things that the germ theory really disrupted, because we have this like a model, like a parts model of medicine now, and we used to kind of have, it was looked at holistically, and that kind of disrupted that a little bit, because you take out, it's like, you go, I don't know if you've ever seen anything about people that have had organ implants, and they have, all of a sudden they have this new food craving or new thing, that was, and come to find out it was from their donor. We're connected. We are whole beings.
We are whole beings.
Yeah. And not that I'm against a organ transplant, but it's just one of those places that's like, wow, we need to kind of pay attention to that. Cause I love your example. Cause yeah, if your hip's out, the way you see the world is going to shift, the way you like physically, physically, the way you see everything's going to be different. Which side of that your ear is going to hear more on one side, it's going to shift the way that you show up in the world 100%.
And I believe that we live life from the ground up, which is why I emphasize so much that you need to work on your feet. In my yoga classes, we do footwork and toe exercises and or ball rolling every single time, because you need to keep your foot muscles strong so that what stays above it is strong. You think about building a house. You don't build a house from the roof down. You build it from the
right.
And so that's why it's really important to have your feet nice and strong so that you get that solid base.
Yeah, for sure. So you're in Connecticut, and
I'm in Connecticut.
Yeah. And what else? Tell me more about the other things that you offer, and tell us a little bit more about you. And
yeah, I'm a yoga instructor, chair yoga instructor. I do movement classes again at some of the senior centers. I offer a virtual chair yoga class at 10 a.m. on Wednesday mornings, Eastern time. And if anybody is interested, they can get a hold of me at my email, which is Eileen, Eileen, at Eileen Byrnes, BYRNES.com. And I'm more than happy to have you hop on and try it, see if it's for you. And we do, as I said, we do chair yoga, but we also incorporate footwork. We incorporate a few minutes of standing postures for balance and strengthening your legs. But you have that option. I have some people in the program who don't want to stand. Awesome. They don't have to. And the great thing is I've got one person in Europe who does it. I've got people on the West Coast. I've got people on the East Coast. So it's great. Everyone can come together, and it's a wonderful program. And we very often incorporate reflexology points in that as well, because it's, to me, reflexology and yoga, I don't know, you want to say go hand in hand or foot in foot, but they just marry each other very well, because yoga is that you want to come into that place of physical and emotional and spiritual and mental balance. And one of the ways you can do that is through reflexology points.
And when did you become certified as a yoga instructor or yoga? Yeah.
Gosh, I've been doing yoga since, I was have to think, I do calculate everything in terms of how old my kids are.
That's right.
I started doing fitness classes before my son was born, about a year before he's born. He's now 32. So it's 34 years ago. And I've been doing yoga probably about 25 years.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. That is amazing. We'll for sure put all of your links and stuff in the show notes so that everybody can reach that, because that online yoga class is amazing. And chair yoga, I think that's probably so helpful for so many people.
Yes. Because you can find a floor yoga class in a lot of places. It is very difficult. It's not very difficult, but it might be difficult to find a chair yoga class, especially someplace other than a senior center. There are people in the country who don't have access to senior centers where they might have a chair yoga class.
Right.
And they can still get that movement and breath work and mobility and footwork. And that's the glory. That's the wonderful aspect of technology is that they can hop on the class and it's a very, very reasonable price, because most of my people came from senior centers. And I know that a lot of people are on fixed incomes, and I want them to be able to get the benefit of it as well.
Yeah. And I think with yoga, especially, like sometimes it could be intimidating to start. So I feel like that's kind of like a first step. I don't have to, sometimes there's this idea that everybody in the class is going to be putting their legs over their heads, and everything. And I'm going to start out. So I would feel more comfortable starting with a chair, and feeling like, okay, I can start there. And
there is so much you can do in a chair. You can do today in my floor yoga class. We did Warrior 2 standing.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, we'll be doing Warrior 2 in the chair.
Right. That's amazing.
The only difference is with some of the poses, you're not going down to the floor and you've got the support of the chair. And when we come and do our balance work, you have that support of the chair. But I have somebody in my class who is in a wheelchair, and the standing aspect, she adapts to what she can. And that's awesome. And the rest of it she does in the chair.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, chair yoga is great, and it's often overlooked.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, we will for sure put all of the links to see you and see if people out there want to come.
One thing I will say about reflexology that just popped into my head. If the one thing about reflexology, if you have had recent blood clots, please get approval from your doctor.
Good to know.
To have reflexology done, because it works a lot on circulation. And so it's great for circulation, not so much if you've had a recent blood clot. So before, I know for me, before I would work on anybody, then I would want to get a clearance from their doctor. And one other thing about reflexology is I love a body massage, love it. But some people don't. They don't want to be touched. They want to take off their clothes. So the only thing I need naked is either your hands or your feet. And even if you don't want to take off your shoes, I can still work on your hands, and you'll still get those incredible benefits from reflexology. So for people who don't want to take their clothes off and be worked on in that aspect, reflexology might be an incredible alternative. It's different. It's a cousin of, but you're still getting that healing modality. You're still getting that relaxation. You're still getting that touch.
I'm probably one of those. I mean, a massage is okay. I like a massage. Who's not gonna like? There's some that don't like it, but I will. My feet, you could spend. I mean, I love a foot massage, and the reflexology is even better because I do respond. I like the energy aspect of it as well. I like that it feels good, but I'm also, balancing and connecting all those things. Right. So I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. Well, you can train somebody and they can start working on your feet.
I love it. I love it. So we always ask our guests to tell us about what their ideas are of wholeness. What do you think about, or what does wholeness mean to you? And
wholeness means to me being in a state of joy.
I love that.
Because if you've got that joy within you, it radiates without. And if you've got that joy within you, it helps to keep you healthy. And it doesn't have to be huge all day joy. It may be little pockets of joy. It could be, for me, sometimes in the morning, it's sipping my tea and looking at my bird feeders, or it could be that little piece of chocolate I had yesterday, or a phone call from your kids, whatever that little nugget of joy might be. But it brings your mind, your body, your soul, your mental aspect all together in this place of feeling calm and protected.
Feel empowered every day with wholeness videos, meditations, downloads, classes, and more by joining the Wholeness Library at thewholenessnetwork.com.